All right, folks, we are at, I believe, day 6 of 31 days of horror slash 31 days of Halloween slash 31 days of whatever we're calling it this year. And the thing is, if you think that completely superfluous horror sequels are a relatively new phenomenon, folks, it's been a part of the genre since day one. And I think nothing exhibits that quite like today's offering from 1944. It is House of Frankenstein. Now, I'm going to have to fill in some gaps here, but just kind of bear with me here, and we'll go on a little tirade a little bit later on. But basically, and we reviewed Frankenstein a couple days ago, so we're all familiar with that one. Okay, well, in between Frankenstein and House of Frankenstein, it's a good, 12, 13 year period, there was just a deluge of Frankenstein and Universal Monsters crossover movies. You had Bride of Frankenstein come out, obviously. Then after that, you had, I believe it was Son of Frankenstein. And then after that, you had The Ghost of Frankenstein. And it just kept, doing all these crossover movies and just adding them all together. I mean, if you think having stuff like Saw 6 or Paranormal Activity 5 is just like a modern marketing ploy, no, no, no. It's been going on since like World War II. And I always kind of said, if you're a horror fan, if there's any decade to skip out on, obviously it's the 1940s. Because really, number one, there's really not a whole lot of content there to begin with. Because, for half the decade, the entire planet was locked in a global war. So you didn't really have the movies being made, to begin with. But just the general quality of the films, I mean, they're very staid, they're very predictable, very formulaic. There's really not a whole lot of great films from that specific point in time. And House of Frankenstein, I think, kind of exemplifies everything that went wrong during that time frame. Okay, so basically the entire gimmick of the movie is that it's a crossover epic. I mean, you got Frankenstein, you've got Dracula, you've got the Wolfman in there, and they're all together. And I'm not sure if it's the first time they've ever been the same movie. I need to really do more research on that. But it's definitely marketed that way. Like you look at the movie poster and they're just absolutely harping on it that this is like that big monster mash. But there's some really interesting things about the movie. Okay, the fact that Boris Karloff is in the movie, but he doesn't actually play Frankenstein. He plays like some completely tertiary mad scientist who has like a hunchback buddy, and they're ruse, and it's really convoluted. They go to like a circus, and what do you know? The guy who runs the circus actually has Count Dracula's corpse as part of the attraction. So basically, what Frankenstein does is he revives Dracula so he can exact revenge on some of his old rivals. Like I said, I mean, it doesn't really make a whole bunch of sense. And of course, along the way, they end up going back to Frankenstein's castle where they find, fittingly enough, both the Frankenstein monster and the Wolfman, who are like frozen in time. Not like magical time, I mean literally like frozen in water. And instead of being dead like any real human beings would be, they're still, pretty much breathing and carrying on. And from there, it's just subplot on top of subplot on top of subplot, where like the Wolfman trying to get his girlfriend to kill him because he's going to be evil. And, you got Frankenstein running around doing stuff. And you got the evil mad scientist played by Boris Karloff. He's having, a personality struggle against Dracula. And it's just a big old mess. Like, it's just one of those movies where it doesn't really have like a central plot. The idea is, okay, let's get all these characters together in one movie, Super Smash Brothers style, and just let whatever happens happen. And doesn't really make for a good movie. Usually you gotta have a good plot. So basically all the problems you're seeing with stuff like Pixels and Batman vs. Superman and all those gigantic ensemble movies, you're seeing it here, in the 1940s, where just because you have a bunch of recognizable characters together and you have them playing off one another doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, worth watching. So this one, I gotta say, it's pretty boring. If I had to give it a star rating, I'd probably give it, I don't know, just two Reese's cups with ghost printed on them out of four. I mean, it's very forgettable. The performances really aren't worth it. I mean, it does have a good cast: Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney, John Carradine playing Dracula. I mean, you got all these guys together, and individually they're good actors, but they just don't have much to work with here. It's just a really, really humdrum movie. And unless you're like a really, really hardcore Universal monster movie fan, you can probably skip this one and live a totally happy life. So anyway, that's it. That's House of Frankenstein. Definitely nowhere near the charm of the original Frankenstein. Just kind of a really rushed, half-hearted cash-in. Thank God the horror genre steered away from that over the years. Boy, I tell you. All right, so anyway, that's day number 6, and tomorrow we're moving along in the 1940s with one of the really rare quasi decent films from that decade. So no spoilers there. Just come back at the regular time. You might like it, you might not. I can't tell.